Okay, guess what I decided to return to? Escabur. This is my longest running campaign and world setting on my channel. Currently, we are on the Cornerstone arc. My apologies, though, because I'm going to be very rusty. I've been playing war games for about 2 to 3 weeks now, since my last episode. And as far as like storytelling, narrative, role playing, I'm going to be very mediocre. So I cannot make any promises or guarantees on the excitement factor. However, I recall the very basics of the where we left off essentially, and luckily I keep notes too many notes at times, which is a good thing. If you ever have played solo RPGs yourself, I recommend doing so. Well, I recommend playing solo RPGs, but also recommend keeping notes on practically everything that is significant. Not every detail. You don't have to track like the smell in the room or what you see, like the color that you're thinking about, what time of day it is, that very moment in time. That's up to you. If you want to track the weather, obviously where you are, who's with you, keep track of the basics plus very important factors. Like, for example, if you have a quest item on your person, if you're on a quest, if you just met someone significant, keep track of things that you deem necessary. So, where Narf left off, he was currently about to speak to Dr. House. So, while I was looking for this document that was kind of in my Google Docs, I noticed that I had Mr. House, which is fine. That was inspired by Fallout, but I believe I joked about Dr. House, which is my favorite shows from the 2000s or so. So I'm like, you know what? What the hell? I'm going to make him Dr. House. So I'll try to base his character on Hugh Larry's Dr. House, which I have a tendency to do in my videos is base these characters on actual like movie or TV show characters because it helps me. I'm a movie guy. I love seeing movies, TV shows. That's the best way for me to role play or to channel that character. I know original, right? Is to use an existing IP, a character, and carry them into a fictional setting. So, with Dr. House currently speaking to a mystery person, a female character, I wrote here that Dr. House is speaking to someone, female character from city staff. Now, I'm going to remove that because she's actually from Emberstock, which is a fairly significant location in our lore. It's where the notorious, infamous King Jenkins comes from. That is his castle. On the map, you can see Castle Emberstock. That's where he is based from. He is a tyrant. He is your classic dictator. He's trying to gain a foothold, gain a grasp on a lot of the southern island of Escabur. And he's currently working his way into the city of Haldrith using some old characters of ours, Jory. Now, with this front, where we left off, we need to figure out if Narf, and I completely spaced on mentioning this, I dropped the Easy D6 system. This might bother a few of you guys, but I went to D&D just for convenience. So I have D&D 5e open here on D&D Beyond. It's a level 1 barbarian, nothing significant. He's a fresh character, so it does kind of work. I haven't been using him for like 3 or 4 arcs, so he's a solid baseline level 1. These are his stats here if you can barely see it. And health-wise is a 14. He's got a strength of 15, dex of 14, constitution of 15, intelligence 11, wisdom 12, and charisma 8. So, those are his ability scores. Now, I mentioned in my last video I'm a little under the weather, so I might not be as charismatic or centric when talking to you guys. I'm doing my best to keep myself uh, leveled. Now, we need to figure out who she is, and I didn't make her character just yet. I wanted to do that here with you guys. So, we know she's from Emberstock, and we need to figure out how we know that as the GM or in this case, the dungeon master, DM. We know she's from Denver stock. She's a she, a female character. Obviously, most characters here are human, and she's visiting a high-profile businessman. Excuse me, a high-profile individual in Cornerstone that is a sovereign city in the southernmost corner of the South Island. Why would she be visiting Dr. House? Now, Dr. House is not essentially a government official, so him being a businessman means he's got connections across the board. He speaks to and works with people of any nature across probably most of the southern island. I'm assuming as far north as City of Haldworth or even Septhane. So it's not unusual to expect a character of his status outside the government hold to speak to someone of such significance. Now, she is from Emberstock. I'm assuming she is a representative or either a member of King Jenkins' crew. We don't know if she is a assassin or a government, well, I use that quote unquote government official from Emberstock or a city castle official. Feel free to correct me on terminology. But I think she obviously has connections to Emberstock and King Jenkins in general, which is totally fine because we want to add that chaos factor into this story. So let's go to our perception with Narf, and he has a +3. So Narf, if remember, his character is loosely based on uh, the Rock's character from Hobbs and Shaw. So he's a big guy. He's a barbarian. That's obvious. That's clear as day. That's how I see his character. He prefers to fight. He's not exactly the smartest. Now, arguably, Hobbs, if I recall correctly, let's go to his character. I think Hobbs was the Rock's. Yeah, Hobbs and Shaw. Shaw was played by Jason Statham. Hobbs he's a very intelligent person. He comes from government background. He's probably an expert. Like he is more credible than Seagal is in want to be special forces, the Marine Corps, um, Army Rangers, anything. So Hobbs is like the Swiss Army knife of the government and is a specialist. So not only is he physically strong, but he's also mentally strong. However, with a D&D character, I'm kind of going with the barbarian route where we're more taking the appearance, that's obvious, from Hobbs and kind of leaving his intelligence at the door because I want him to be just an average level of intelligence. He's not extremely smart. There's no technology in this world. It's in the past. Your typical dark fantasy, most likely. But he has experience in the criminal underground. He knows people. He can fight. That's how I'm assuming his character is. Now, where does he sit in the alignment factor? Neutral good. We so far we've at least from what I perceive or remember correctly, is that his character is he's not doesn't really lawfully good. He's not chaotic. But he does fight. He does have a tendency to uh, punch first, ask questions later, which is not a great thing. But as a fixer, as someone who gets things done for Dr. House, because he does work for Dr. House, that's his specialty. And remember, he's with the fight club, the Fury Forge. It's like a underground fight club in Cornerstone. He's a member of it, and he's probably the king of it. He's probably the most has the most victories and fights with the other members. So it's obvious that he prefers the muscle compared to the brain. So more bronze than brain. But I'm still maintaining my idea that he is just slightly above average in intelligence. Just he can be perceived as an average IQ, but with that 11 there in intelligence, he has experience. Now that probably more so goes in wisdom, which I think wisdom is more appropriate for general experience in the streets and with his connections compared to intelligence of how he grew up and learning several languages and knowing, reading books compared to wisdom, which is your general experience in the world outside of being a book smart. So that's how I'm perceiving both intelligence and wisdom. So we have to believe that the perception is something that Narf is naturally good at. That's why I gave it a proficiency in perception. So what we're going to do is the DM me will call out a perception roll. Because right now, with all that blabbering, we barely made any progress. So I'd say that Stencil, we can't forget about Stencil. Stencil is an employee of the female character we're looking for. Her name is, it's been a while, so my apologies, Lorianne. She's missing. We don't know if she's alive or dead. And Stencil works for her, if I recall correctly. Yeah, he is her assistant. She is the overseer of commerce. So she is a government official, and there's possibly some romance, a backstory with Narf's character. But she, oh yeah, there is. I forgot. A Narf left. There was some. It's all here. So where did I put it? She cared for Narf, got romantic for a bit, but didn't want the publicity, so she fired him. And then Narf jumped ship to another significant public figure, and that is Dr. House. So this is obviously not going to be Thorien. This is going to be another new female character that entered the picture, and she will be from Emberstock, and Stencil is not there, so I'm going to say that Narf enters. I did make a hack, I remember from the last video, as I was watching the very end of it, just to remember if I just make sure I don't miss anything significant. Stencil's waiting outside because he's not a familiar. Dr. House probably knows of him, but doesn't want him in the building. So Stencil is waiting patiently outside, probably thinking of something to do or worried about where Thorien is, Larien. So let's see. Uh, Sorry guys, I'm still rusty. But Narf enters. He sees Dr. House talking with this female character. I don't think she's like covered up in cloak, but she's visibly dressed very nicely. Maybe a noble, dressed as a noble, someone of royalty, which it makes sense because again, Castle Emberstock, they are packed with egotistical pricks. So maybe she carries that burden too. We don't know if she's a bad person or a good person. She could just be a messenger. We don't know. But she's here, coincidentally, when those assassins from Emberstock have been hunting and trying to off our character in Arf. If I recall correctly, we had an encounter at Lorienne's house. And we found a ledger, which I still have. I transitioned over to our inventory. It's right here. And ledger from Assassin. Now, I don't recall if I looked through it. He finds a ledger, dozens of names. A few have been crossed out. Stencil name was on the list, but not crossed. Obviously, Stencil's still alive. So it was a hit list. So let's go to the custom item here in D&D, and we'll customize it, and it's a hit list with several names crossed out. So I apologize if the font is so small, but it's the only way to fit everything on the screen using one monitor. So I cannot use multi-monitors because I have my table still set up for the tabletop war games, so I have to kind of just deal with what the setup I have. Again, still dreaming that one day I get a huge studio, at least, 10 by 10 feet, 15 by 15 feet, and I have a background. I'm not using this cheesy AI background removal tool. I have a table for my war games, and I have a separate area for my RPG videos. So, hint, hint, I'm thinking about Patreon. I just don't know if I'm eligible for it. I need to look for it, and I have noticed an increase in subscriber count since I'm doing the war game videos, which I'm not surprised because as much, and I very much appreciate everyone who subscribed and watching. But obviously, Warhammer and war games is a very popular market. So I'm just not surprised that it kind of brought in a lot of viewers. But at the same time, I love playing these games. So I'm doing it more so for the hobby than the clicks. But you guys, several of you wanted me to bring back this, so here I am. So let's do a perception roll. This will really determine if Narf knows her. It's going to be a basic perception roll, and the D&D Beyond app has the it has the dice built in, so I don't have to use that separate dice roller called Mighty Dice, which is a Apple iOS app, if you guys were wondering from my last video. I think that's what he was using. Yeah. So let's do a perception roll. We got to set the DC. I almost forgot. I've been playing this game D&D for a while. Um, let's do difficulty of. I'm trying to think about how much Narf knows in general world experience and her character's exposure to the region. So we do know Narf has been to Barco Island. That's one of the reasons why um, Hulf and oh my gosh, I forgot their names. Hulf and Mortar are going to meet him eventually. I think all of this is happening at the same exact time when Hulf and Mortar are traveling up the mountain to see the dragon. So, because remember you left off, the master, if I recall correctly, was at Barco Island. That's what I'm assisting. So, let's set the difficulty at 15, shall we? So I'm going to roll perception. And there's a sound effect. 14. I was literally one. Okay. So, his memory is foggy. He thinks he knows her, probably has seen her, but does not recall a name and doesn't remember where. But he knows for a fact he's seen her face. So, Narf has seen her face before. It could have been a picture, a portrait. It could have been passing, but never doesn't he doesn't know her name, her stats, or her personal details, but doesn't know her details. So this is where we build her character. And because she's currently in Cornerstone, I'm going to create her character. I'm trying to think if I should make her in the main list. Antagonist, possibly. Mentors. See, this is where it kind of gets out of hand. If I want to make her character currently in Cornerstone, she technically is in Cornerstone, so we could just put her in Cornerstone. But she's based in Emberstock. So let's copy an existing character who has some details. Gosh, I thought I had a character picture of Stencil. I do not. Let's copy over Laryen. Copy that. And we will make a spot here for her character name. We'll have to clear out that picture there. Home is Emberstock. We don't know her name yet. I'm going to uh, put that in there soon. Occupation, we don't know yet. Age, let's say she's a similar age as to Dr. House. So she's on the older side, 58. Let's see, ABC, we don't know much details about her yet. We restart this count. So, yeah, it's going to be occupation from Emberstock. So, she is from Emberstock. Let's say she works for King Jenkins. So she is most likely on the evil side. So an antagonist. Her name, Jewel. Jewel. Okay, so Jewel is our character. So let's go to our arc. Her name is Jewel. I'll put this in quotations because this is something I splashed in there. It didn't happen in the moment. Okay, so Narf enters. Dr. House acknowledges Narf, and he does this. He says, one moment. And she looks over, and when she looks over at Narf, she's surprised. She's shocked. He sees her eyes widen, but facial expressions. She's fairly straightforward, fairly simple. But her eyes open. He sees her eyebrows spike a bit. I will let um, I'll let Narf catch that. So she notices Narf eyebrows raised, eyes widen. So King or Dr. House notices her expression and he inquires, "Oh, do you know this man? Do you know Narf?" And she most likely will respond, well, does she know Narf? Well, yes, she does. She's obvious. If I'm doing the whole, like, dun 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 kind of thing, she obviously knows Narf. But she's going to play dumb. She says, no, I never met this man before. But, and then um, Dr. House introduces her, Jewel, to Narf. So I'm going to say Dr. House intros Narf to Jewel. They shake hands. Narf is obviously a much taller individual, so she's kind of looking up, but she's on the older side, so he's gentle. But Narf has no suspicions right now. He just vaguely recognizes her face. But he's not like, oh my god, that's, she's here to kill me kind of thing. She's not. Well, she is, she could be, but that's not what he's thinking right now. He's just curious. So Narf says, sorry, boss, I didn't mean to interrupt this meeting you got going, but I wonder if we can speak in a moment. And Dr. House, he says, yes, yes, we will, I will spare you a minute, and just give me a few minutes with Jewel here. We are just wrapping up our business. Please wait outside. I thank you. So Narf, he nods and he leaves. So Dr. House finishes up conversing with Jewel. Narf leaves the room and waits. There are probably some security detail outside, but he's just kind of leaning against the door, and he suddenly hears a word, a keyword. Now, I don't believe the connection of Emberstock is anywhere right. So, slight plot hole. Emberstock King Jenkins do not know of Narf, but that's actually, now that's concerning. I would assume they do. I'm going to try to correct myself here, because think about it. If they were going to kidnap, well, no, I forgot. I probably talked about this. I'm sorry. I'm all over the place. Basically, they kidnapped Larien, and Narf wasn't working with her, so he wasn't on the radar. That's it. That's the explanation. Okay. But she, let's put some inner monologue here. So, she does recognize Narf for some reason. Let's leave that up into interpretation later on. There's something happening here. Some small connection she has with Narf. Anyways, the conversation continues. The door is cracked open. Narf did not close all the way. The security detail is about to close the door because of privacy reasons, but the word Emberstock is spoken. So, Emberstock, let's do a perception roll. I'll do a 12. I think they're conversing um, audibly, not too loud, not screaming, yelling out, are you here to kill? Did you kidnap her? Not that kind of thing. How was your travels from Emberstock? They're not doing that. So, 12 is our target. 12 is we got a 12. The numbers are really playing today. So, Narf catches the mention of Emberstock. Interesting. Oh, I have That's why I was wondering, like, why is it highlighting green? And then I'm typing in Emberstock. I had find on. So, Narf catches the mention of Emberstock. That's definitely worth a bold. And the door closes soon after by security. So he registers that. He is connecting the dots that maybe she's from Emberstock. So Narf is assuming she is from Emberstock. Okay. Minutes later, the door opens, and Jewel leaves the room. She pauses, acknowledged Narf. She nods and continues down the stairs. I think we were on the second floor. I don't remember, but not that doesn't really matter right now. And so Narf kind of just nods too, and he's curious who that was. So, um, Dr. House with his cane kind of approaches the doorway, and um, he looks to Narf. Goes, Narf, my friend, you're here after hours. What do you need? And Narf is he looks to he looks at Dr. House and kind of leans in and says, I need to speak to you in private. May we? And Dr. House kind of looks around and says, of course. And then he mentions to security, please make sure Jewel is able to leave safely. Escort her, please. And the security escorts her out safely. Or please show her on the way out. And so she leaves. So Jewel leaves the house of Dr. House, and Narf enters the room with House. The door is closed. So, Dr. House it pours a bourbon or whatever, a drink, and he leans against his desk and says, so, what is what seems to be on your mind, my friend? Narf explains what has happened. He explains, so here, let's write down basically, Narf explains everything that has transpired with along with mentioning the disappearance of Lorien. I know I'm going to butcher her name multiple times. It's like a 8.0 seismic earthquake at this point. Where is she? Lorien, yeah. So Lorien, not Lauren. Let me add this to my dictionary. Add to personal dictionary. There we go. Lorien. Lore, Lar. Yep, good. Okay, so he is he's he's shocked. So uh House is shocked at the news. And obviously Snarf mentions stencils outside. He that they had a run in at her house, and he was wondering if with he Narf asked politely, with your connections, who do you think would do such a thing? So basically, again, Narf is he's practicing his connections. So Narf inquires about who would have a grudge against Lorien. House ponders for a moment. He shakes his drink, takes a sip, he puts it on the counter. He leans off the table with his cane and walks up to Narf. Well, he kind of looks up, and he's about to say something. And that's where I will leave off this episode. So, roughly 30 minutes. But I believe most of this episode was just me blabbering on. We barely made any progress. But again, it's kind of turning into a solo journaling, which I'm okay with. Escubar is really growing on me, or it's growing in context, and I don't want to be too vague with everything. I want to detail things extensively so that I can recall. But remember, me being the only real avatar here with all of this, the control board for this video, I'm gonna miss details, and I'm sure you guys will catch it. If you do catch it, please mention it. And I really encourage it. So I will correct myself if I see your comment, and I will obviously mention you guys. So let's finish off. House is about to say something. Okay, that's where I leave off. Otherwise, I think I did fairly well if I compare my past videos with I didn't use any Magic the Gathering cards as inspiration, and I didn't use any oracles. I just mostly for my own noggin. So let me know what you guys thought. I'd say this is good for now. Remember, I'm still under the weather, so I don't have much energy right now, along with my day job. But yeah, it's still I enjoyed. I'm happy I reapproached. I revisited this. It's been so long. 2 to 3 weeks is like a century for me, and I'm just happy that I brought it back. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Please feel free to provide some input. Let me know if you want to see something or provide some story input. I like to um, give you guys some credit and input your details into the story. So it's kind of a collaborative experience. Because again, this is not live, so I don't have that back and forth. But at least you guys can comment, and I can put that stuff in here, and I will obviously credit you with the details. So, as always, I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.